Hello and welcome to the DSP Project, your weekly fix of music production and technology. I'm your host Rupert Brown, and this week we're reviewing this, the Novation ZeRO SL MkII. It is one in a family of controllers. The other models in this range have a keyboard. There's one with a short keyboard, one with a full-length keyboard. This one, while it doesn't have a keyboard, it does have a crossfader that the others don't have, and it has the longer 60mm throw faders. It's quite a nice little unit. It is made out of plastic. Sounds like that. I always think you can get a feel for what it's like just by listening how it sounds. Okay, so it's made of plastic. You can see it's kind of angled there, so it sort of sits up and faces you on your desk. It is not the thinnest controller in the whole world, but having said that, sitting on the desk with a computer keyboard in front of it is actually quite a nice height, facing up at you. It has this lovely little LCD display here, so you can see the parameters that you're controlling. This one has, while it only has one display, the previous model, the Mark I, had a display on each side. Kind of a bit bummed that that's gone. Having said that, you can just touch either side and it will show you exactly what parameters you're controlling. So you're not really losing too much. I would have liked to have kept the double display thing, but you can still get all the information. And one thing I will point out when I say touch each one, you literally have to barely even touch it. So it's not a case of you actually having to move and change a parameter to get the display to register. You just very lightly touch it and it will register and show you what you're controlling. Right, let's take a closer look. Starting from the top, we've got a 2-row LCD display. The top gives us the name of the parameter that we're controlling, and below that gives us the value of that current parameter. If I turn the knob there, you may be able to see it sort of changing. I'm trying to show you that on the screen. It gives you sort of some feedback of where that parameter is at. The nice thing about this LCD display as well is if you get a bit off axis, it doesn't disappear as they do on other devices. It's pretty readable from just about any angle. Below that, we've got the encoders here, and as you can see, there is an LED ring around the encoder, so we get sort of visual feedback as to where we are. So you've got 8 of those, and below those we've got 8 ordinary knobs. So these have like a hard stop, hard start and stop point. So not quite as useful for jumping between different parameters, but still nice to have another set of knobs all the same. Below that we've got the drum pads. The drum pads I actually quite like. They're quite soft. On the Akai ones, it can be quite hard and you've got to really wallop them. But these ones are kind of nice and soft. Not the largest drum pads in the world, but definitely big enough that you, even with sausage fingers, you should be able to knock a beat out. Below that, we've got a set of 2 buttons for each channel here, which can be sort of assignable, used for the menu functions, but can be assignable to whatever you want. Below that, we've got some system functions. We can sort of preview what parameters are mapped to where, and some global controls. We've got the little page button here, back and forth. So if there is more than one page of parameters, you can switch over, and you can see as I push back and forth there, the parameters change, and so our little LED rings change, and also the display changes, so we can see what parameter we're controlling and where it's at. Moving along, we've got a crossfader here, quite a nice smooth crossfader. It's definitely a mixing crossfader as opposed to like a scratch crossfader. You know, there's a bit of resistance there. It's not like some super loose fader. In the middle here, we've got the speed dial, which is for changing the speed. No, it's not really. It's so you can just select a parameter and then instantly be able to move it without having to map anything. Moving over, we've got 8 faders, 60mm long throw faders, which they're pretty good. They feel alright. On my review unit, this one on the left here, hang on, maybe you can hear this. Seems like it's rubbing a little bit. To be fair, this unit's probably done a fair bit of travel and had a fair bit of abuse, but that I don't think it's going to come out of the box like that, but my particular one it just rubs a little bit on that fader. The rest of them are nice and smooth. Okay, heading down the bottom here, we've got a transport button on and off, which engages these transport controls here. You can see we can scrub back, scrub forward, stop, play, loop, record, and then these buttons are also assignable. Down the very bottom here, we've got Automap for an Automap enabled device, or we can turn that off if your DAW doesn't support Automap, or if you're using a hardware device. The learn, so if we want to learn map a new parameter, we basically just press the control in the software, press the learn button, and then hit a control we want to map it to, and then it's basically automatically mapped. And then moving along, we've got the user FX, inst, and mixer, which basically lets us kind of group our devices separately. So let's say I want to jump to a different effect. So push the effects button here, and then if we can come up to the display here, you can see I've got T-Rex compressor and T-Rex EQ. If I want the EQ, I just simply touch on the device under EQ, and then suddenly I've got all the parameters here. So again, if I want to move to something else, oh, this is really not focusing very well. Push FX again, and so I can see the list of all my Automap devices. If I touch the encoder for compressor, and then I can see all of my controls for the compressor. Okay, so coming at her from the back side, we have got a DC jack input, we've got a switch to go between off, DC power, USB power, USB cable input, we've got a control pedal, an expression pedal, MIDI port 2 output, MIDI port through, out and in. So one of the draws of buying one of these, or just about any Novation controller, is that it comes with the Automap software, currently up to Automap version 3. And as the name implies, the idea of Automap is to automatically map the software controls to the hardware controls of the controller. Now, in theory, that sounds fantastic, and you might think, well, that would be great. I'd never need to manually map a control ever again. The reality of the situation is, though, that's not really the case. Automap is on some levels at the mercy of the plugin developer. The order in which they put the different parameters for the different controls inside of the software plugin will dictate what controls are mapped where. So you're not actually going to get the most relevant controls for every plugin straight out of the box. That being said, though, it is super duper easy to remap the new controls, and there's 3 levels that you can then save those mappings once you've got them. So if you just want a project-specific mapping, then just by saving the project will save the Automap controls. So if I've got my filter cutoff mapped here, I save my project, load it back up again, and then this control will continue to control that filter cutoff. You can then also save as a default. So the default is a per device, so per plugin setting. So I can say on my whatever Scooby-Dooby filter, this will always be the cutoff, this will always be the resonance. Once I've mapped those using the Automap system, I can save as default, and whenever I load that plugin up in the future, I will always know I'll have my Scooby-Dooby cutoff and Scooby-Dooby resonance straight at my fingertips. And the third sort of level is you can actually save separate Automap files. So if you have certain plugins might have different units inside of that one plugin. So take for instance the amplitude amp simulation package that I did a review on very recently. You've got different amp models in there, so you might want a different mapping for each amplifier, let's say. You can then map them in and save them as whatever Fender amp, blah blah blah, and then be able to open them up and load in the separate controls. So you really have it's really quite a deep system, and you have as much flexibility as far as I can see that you would need. Now, another really cool thing about having the display, I love having the display here so I can see exactly what parameters I'm controlling. And this has allowed me to do something that I haven't really been able to do as far as mastering in the box. And that is, it's allowed me to turn the screen off, which is is really interesting, a really interesting thing to do. Because I can select different plugins, I just hit the effects button here, and then it will come up on my display, all the different Automap devices I have loaded. I can then say, just touch on the knob to say I want to go to my compressor, and then I've got all my controls for my compressor up on the screen. And I did it as an experiment, and it was really cool, interesting thing to do, because it made me use my ears just that little bit more and not rely on my screen and not be looking at how much gain reduction is being applied, but actually sort of listening for it. And I think that can only be a positive thing. So in conclusion, it is a very, very capable controller. Like I say, there is a learning curve using the Automap software and getting everything how you like it. Although once you do have everything locked in, it's really quite an awesome controller to use. I will say the Automap software is good 99% of the time. It can be a little bit flaky. I did have a few small problems with the display and things, which for the most part I managed to get them resolved eventually, but be warned, there is some patience required. Now, it currently retails for around about £200, so it's pretty well priced. I would have liked to have kept the two displays on either side, would have been a nice luxury, but you can definitely get by just using the touch system to see which is mapped here. Another point, while it is a super duper clever Automap controller over a USB cable, you've also got good old-fashioned MIDI ports in the back, and it will take sort of an AC power adapter, and it would work as a very capable controller for hardware as well. You can save a bunch of different configurations, so I think it would be good in that setup as well. And yeah, I think it's a winner. It would work very well at the center of a digital audio workstation with your computer keyboard on the front. As I said, it sits nicely. It's about the same width. You've got drum pads, crossfader, faders, knobs, a whole bunch of buttons. You get a lot of control for your money. So yeah, it's a go. It's a tick. I like it. That has been my review. If you guys have any questions or comments on this unit, maybe you've got one and want to chip in, head down to theDSPproject.com and leave a message under this video. Or if you want to get a hold of me direct, you can send an email to inbox@theDSPproject.com. And while you're on the site, if you could also subscribe as well, that would be really cool. That is all we've got time for this week. I'll see you next week.